In this video, I will be revealing what I believe is the most underappreciated arc in Bleach. The story of Bleach consists of 5 arcs in total: the Substitute Shinigami arc, the Soul Society arc, the Arrancar arc, which people like to split in two by claiming that the battle for Karakura Town is a separate arc in of itself, but for the sake of the video, let's just call it the Arrancar saga. Next is the Fullbring arc, and last but not least is the Thousand Year Blood War arc. Look, I'm just going to get straight to the point. I am sick and tired of people only remembering Bleach for the Soul Society arc or the Arrancar arc. Bleach has so much to offer when it comes to its storytelling, and that's why in this video I will be explaining why the Substitute Shinigami arc is underappreciated. I already know that some of you might disagree and say that it's the Fullbring arc, but I stand firm in my statement. The Substitute Shinigami arc is the most underappreciated arc in Bleach. See, just like a song, movie, speech, or hell, even life, everything has an intro, or more specifically, a beginning. And in the case of Bleach, the Substitute Shinigami arc is where everything begins. Well, technically, if we are being literal here, then Bleach Chapter 0 is where it's really begun, which by the way, I have a video on. Feel free to check it out. Anyways, in the first arc, we see Ichigo grow from a naive teenager who could barely see ghosts into a fully fledged Soul Reaper. Now, if I had to take a guess as to why people don't really appreciate this arc, the first thing to come to mind would be the power scaling. This was objectively the point in the story where Ichigo, his allies, and even his foes were at their weakest. After the Substitute Shinigami arc comes to an end, the story takes a drastic turn. Ichigo goes from fighting enemies like Grand Fisher to facing off against Jesus. And if you factor in how obsessed people today are with flashy fights and explosive battles, it makes sense as to why this arc doesn't stick out to them. However, in my case, this is the exact opposite for me, because that's what makes this arc stand out to me. There is so much more emphasis on Ichigo's family and friends. And if we are being realistic here, this is what makes shonen manga special and popular. That sense of camaraderie, family, and brotherhood captivates shonen fans all over the world, and this is no better way exemplified than in the Substitute Shinigami arc. Chapter after chapter, we would be introduced to a range of Ichigo's friends, including those that would provide comic relief to characters who would play pivotal roles in the story, including what I like to call the gang, which consists of Chad, Orihime, and Uryu. Initially, when Chad and Orihime were introduced, it looked like they were characters that would play secondary roles, and often they were liabilities to Ichigo and those around them. However, after Uryu brings in a surge of hollows into Karakura Town, the both of them are left with no choice but to stand on their own 2 feet without the assistance of Ichigo and defeat their opponents. And this is where we see them develop out of their shells. After being pushed to the limit, Chad and Orihime unleash powers that were always within them. And with these powers, they are enabled to not only protect themselves, but also their friends. And in the case of Uryu, he would play the role of Ichigo's first rival. As we all know, opposites attract. And what better way to show this than by having 2 destined rivals face off against each other. Due to the feud between the Quincy's and Soul Reapers, it was only natural for Ichigo and Uryu to oppose each other. The archer takes his bow and aims his arrow at the substitute Soul Reaper. Uryu challenges Ichigo to a duel, and after crushing hollow bait, he brings in hundreds of hollows into Karakura Town. And the rules of the game were simple. Whoever defeated the most hollows in 24 hours would be the victor. Long story short, Uryu bit much more than he could swallow, and the numbers of hollows that he attracted exceeded his expectations, leaving him with no choice but to join forces with Ichigo. The two effectively work together and even manage to defeat a Menos Grande. Remember when we used to think that this was the most powerful being in Bleach? How naive we were. Anyways, the reason why Uryu had so much distaste for Soul Reapers, aside from the genocide, was because the Soul Society was the reason for his grandfather's death, which, to be fair, is a good reason to hate Soul Reapers. However, Ichigo was able to relate to this because a hollow took his mother's life. Through the loss of a loved one, the two were able to gain an understanding and put all of their problems aside. Now, let's be completely honest here. These are some of the components that are missing from the other arcs. After this arc is finished, the story diverts its attention from characters like Chad, Uryu, and Orihime. Characters that were vital to the story take a back seat, and we are introduced to a platter of new characters. And don't get it confused, I am not delusional enough to believe that Chad could face off against someone like Yuha. That is virtually impossible. However, I really wish that we got to see Ichigo's friends play a bigger role in the story, like they did in the very beginning. The Fullbring arc presented an opportunity for this, but unfortunately, it never came into fruition. Yes, it is true that this arc began slowly and the stakes in the battles weren't high enough, but overall, if you ask me, the highs far outweigh the lows. Despite the fact that this arc is only 8 volumes, it provided a lot of insight into the story of Bleach. Not only were we given a basic explanation of what the Soul Society was and exactly how and why it functioned, but we were also given lore about the history of the Soul Society. Additionally, Uryu, Chad, and Orihime are given a significant amount of screen time, giving us, the audience, enough time to not only learn more about their personalities, beliefs, and motivations, but we also gain interest in these characters because Kubo-sensei invested a lot of time into them, therefore allowing us to form bonds with these characters and, most importantly, appreciating the roles that each of them play in the story. Closing thoughts. Please appreciate the Substitute Shinigami arc. This arc is where everything began, and by no means am I trying to say that this is the best arc in Bleach. And look, I'm not trying to act like I am exempt from underappreciating this arc, because I also used to overlook the Substitute Shinigami arc and gravitated towards the more popular arcs. Hell, if I am being completely honest here, I put this arc at number 4 in my ranking every arc in Bleach from worst to best video, which by the way you should go check out if you have the time. I still stand on the number 4 ranking, however, the opinions I had in that video has changed. For example, I said that the Substitute Shinigami arc bored me to death and it just wasn't enough to keep me interested. However, after rereading it, my opinions have changed and I deeply regret saying that, and hopefully if you felt the same way as I did, then this video can help you come to appreciate this arc the same way I have. To end off the video, here's a fun fact. The Substitute Shinigami arc was actually meant to run for a longer period of time. However, Kubo-sensei decided to end it quicker than he intended to. In his fan club called Club Outside, a fan asked this question. I quote, "Word on the street has it that you actually ended the Substitute Shinigami arc earlier than planned. Is this true? If so, please let us know what you originally intended to write in terms of story." And Kubo answered with a very interesting statement. He claims that he originally intended to write an episode for each of the classmates, but on the way got bored and scrapped the idea. What do you guys think? Was this the right decision? Yes or no? I personally would have really loved to see a Totsuki backstory. That would be pretty cool. And to give Kubo credits, I kind of understand his decision. Because let's be completely honest here, Ichigo had way too many classmates. It would have been crazy for Kubo to dedicate a chapter to each and every one of them. Thank you for making it to the end. And if you enjoyed the video, then please like and subscribe. And also turn on the notifications because it really helps the channel out. And also tell me down in the comment section what you think is the most underappreciated arc in Bleach. Am I right? Is it the Substitute Shinigami arc or the Fullbring arc? I am very interested to know. Peace out.